one of the complaints that I've heard a lot from the Halloween movies, and I can kind of agree with this. I don't know if the other ones necessarily apply too, but I've heard a lot of people say that the problem with the Halloween ones is that they're too boring. That the first one takes too long to get started, and I watched that first one
Hmm.
before I had heard that theory, and I kind of agree. Like that, not that I just want to watch people get stabbed and whatever, because
Right.
at a certain point, if you are only watching a movie to see the violence, you might want to get checked out. But um, I kind of think, if you're going into a horror movie, you want to see, people get killed. If you are watching a comedy, you want jokes. If you go into an action movie, you want explosions. So I've never been one of the people that says, like, an action movie has to only be lots and lots of explosions. Otherwise, I would have liked
Right.
Transformers 4. But with the Halloween ones, it took way too long to get started. So I am much more a fan of like Halloween 6 than the first one, because at this point we know this is Mike Myers. He's gonna go kill people, and we're like that. All right, let's just get
Right.
started and have Donald Pleasance run around like an idiot. Um, what do you guys think about that? Is it something like, even if it's the first movie of the series, does it need to get started right away for it to be a horror thing? Does it need to scare you like immediately, or are you willing to wait and have that build up?
Well, I mean, I feel like something
Hmm.
needs to happen at first. Whether it's in the case of Mike Myers, where he kills his sister at first, and then you begin getting into it. I'll agree though that the first Halloween is very slow. If
Yeah.
you love horror movies, but you're only interested in like the murder and the blood and the guts and the gore, Halloween 1 is not gonna be the movie for you. Halloween 1 is a lot more psychological than I think some people are interested in, where it delves more into the why of the character rather than the what he's doing. Um, there are some movies where, like for instance, Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, that had like I think, correct me if I'm wrong, don't most of those movies start off with Freddy doing something?
Um.
I know the second one started
Well.
where they were on the school bus.
Right. Well, the first one, I know that if not, it's not the first thing we see. It's one of the first things we see. We see those blades getting made.
Hmm.
So it's already like it's a hook. You know. You know something really horrible is gonna happen with that thing. Um. I agree. I feel like I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm
Interrupting.
bringing it out there.
Okay. I think that I mean it's hard to say. I feel like there are some movies where a slow buildup works. Um, Candyman kind of has a slowish buildup. It's one of my favorite movies ever. But it has hooks during that buildup. So it's almost like, yeah, you're getting to know the story, what's going, like what happened before everything. You're not gonna see a body like getting torn to pieces in the first 5 minutes. But there are little things that they throw at you that keep you on your toes. That you know that if you relax too much, you might be relaxing and get startled in the next second, or you're trying to pay attention because you feel like that little like piece of information there might come in hand like later on, or you might be like, ah, I see where they're going now. So I think that it can work if you do like a horror movie with like a slower beginning. But you have to keep the audience interested, and you kind of have to remind them sometimes that yes, this is a horror movie. So, you know, it might be slow right now, but it's not gonna be like that throughout the whole movie. And I have to admit, like when I first watched uh, Halloween 1, I fell asleep in the first like 10 minutes. My attention span is really bad. So to me, I like when I have a little like when they're throwing a little like nibble at me, like, oh, this is gonna get really intense in a second. I think that's good, but I don't know. I feel like some people might like the slower stuff. I don't know.
That brings up something that this is kind of, it's not horror specific, but it sort of applies. With monster movies, a lot of people complain that you don't see enough of the monsters, but at the same time, when you see too much of the monsters, people complain too.
People always complain. Like,
no matter what, somebody's going to complain about something. But one of the complaints about the newest Godzilla movie was, well, Godzilla was only in it for a few minutes. And then other times people, the whole big issue would be, well, it's just Godzilla fighting people for the whole time. And they call it the Jaws effect in, the entertainment industry, where you don't need to show the monster to still have some kind of a fright happen from it. Jaws, the shark itself, Bruce, you don't see him for maybe like 3/4 of the movie or so.
Yeah.
And it's still, one of the first scenes is one of the most horrifying, because you just see the people, dip down in the water and splashing back and forth and blood everywhere and whatever. And that ends up doing so much more, because whether it's Jaws or it's something like Godzilla or whatever, some movies are going for more horror, some movies are going for more just cool monster Godzilla kind of a thing.
Right.
But it makes it so much better, because the big argument with the book is better is that people picture things differently. Mm-hmm. And you can't beat your own imagination. So if you don't show the monster for the longest time, people are going to make it seem so much worse than what it really is. So if you've got one of these horror movies where you kind of, this is a really crude way of saying it, but you blow your load too fast, then, at a certain point, how many more people is that person going to have to kill before it matters?
Right. And I think that's a very valid point. Even though I guess it's safe to say that every horror movie deals with some sort of fear that we all have as a society, nothing it's ever going to be your personal experiences and your personal fears. And when you don't see the monster, when you don't see the creature, just like reading a book, just like you said, you can actually include stuff in your own head. And sometimes even without being aware of it, then freaks you out. It's almost like there's a very old movie, very old book called The Legend of Hell House. In the book and in the movie, you don't see anything, but you get all those, haunted houses, things like doors open, or even the original, oh man, what was it? It's not House in the Haunted Hill, but it's the one where the walls breathe, and you never get to see what's making the walls breathe. You just see kind of like the weird motion as if the house is alive. And to me, that freaked me out, because I'm like, is there a creature behind the walls that is so massive and so scary that it's actually making the whole solid structure of the house breathe? So I think that's just way cooler. And just, it gets to you, because if you can see something, you can really prepare yourself. You can protect yourself. It's just there.
Sam, do you know what the movie that Caroline's talking about? I can't think of anything. I can only think of that Simpsons episode with the
one where the house is breathing. There's two that came to mind. Is it animated?
No. There was the original one, black and white, and the remake was with Catherine Zeta-Jones, a very young Owen Wilson. This is gonna drive me crazy.
Because the only thing I can think of is the Amityville Horror.
And no, they go to a house where this doctor is allegedly doing the study on people with sleeping disorders, but it turns out that he knows the house is haunted, and he gathers people there to see if he can activate the house to record actual evidence that the house is haunted. I'm
The
looking
Haunting?
at right. It might be The Haunting. Is it just The Haunting?
Let's see.
The only Catherine Zeta-Jones movie I can think of right now is The Mask of Zorro, and I know that that's not it. If it is, I watched the wrong damn movie.
It is The Haunting, yes. The 1963 version of that film. I was in awe. I watched it after I watched the remake, and I remember the part where all the actors are freaking out because the walls are breathing, and that was so cool. You don't see the main evil ghost, who is Hugh Crane, throughout the whole movie. You just see little like things like that. Things falling, the walls breathing. That is so freaking scary, much more scary than a CGI ghost with a weird haircut. It's just awesome.
With a weird haircut.
Depends on how weird the haircut is.
I guess if it was a mullet, it would be more valid. But no, it's just weird. Just bad CGI.
Well, Sam, what do you think about the monster Jaws effect kind of thing? You were, if I'm not mistaken, you were a fan of Cloverfield, right?
I was a fan of Cloverfield. I wasn't a fan when I saw the movie. I was more of a fan when I actually learned like the backstory of the movie that was never even stated in the movie. Like when I figured out all the little side stuff that like the director would talk about and the writers would talk about. But the movie itself did use the Jaws effect. And I mean, it did it well. I just feel like there was a lot of side stuff that kind of made the movie less than it could be. The new Godzilla, though, just pissed me off. Because, like, it wasn't even the Jaws effect. It was literally if the movie Jaws was the shark popping out of the water to bite somebody, and then they cut to two people talking on the shore.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh, it was so annoying. That's why I really hope that if they do another Godzilla, that they'll actually have Godzilla in there for more than like 10 minutes.
What, you didn't like side plots about saving little kids and then putting other little kids on buses instead of saving them?
Maybe monster sex was an okay side story, but
it sounds like an entirely different movie. Monster sex. Let's see here. Well, Jaws effect is a big thing.
Not done well.
There's going to be one of those XXX parodies now. Godzilla monster sex. It's going to be him with the.
I'm sure there's a porn somewhere with that name already.
There probably is. Probably China stars in it.
I'm the star of it.